Elijah had always been taught to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Graduating top of his class from Ohio State, he landed a coveted junior marketing position at Halston & McCade, a mid-sized firm in downtown Columbus. It was the kind of job his family had prayed for. Benefits, growth potential, and a chance to finally break the generational cycle. From day one, Elijah walked into that office with ambition in his step. Crisp shirt, confident smile, and ideas that turned heads. But by the second week, the microaggressions began to creep in. Your hair is interesting. You're so articulate. Are you sure you're in the right department? He tried to brush it off, kept his head down, focused on the work. But the whispers during lunch breaks, the ignored hand raises during meetings. The manager, Brent Lawson, a man who once bragged about diversifying the team, never seemed to hear Elijah when he spoke, unless someone else echoed the same idea minutes later. It was Friday. Elijah had just completed a marketing pitch that landed a $400,000 client account. He stayed late to perfect the deck, even helped a colleague meet a last-minute deadline. He felt good. For once, it seemed like he belonged. Then, Monday morning came. Brent called him into his glass-walled office. The door closed behind him with a soft click. "Elijah," Brent began, folding his arms like a disappointed father, "you're talented, but you're not exactly fitting in here." Elijah blinked. "I'm not sure I understand. I just closed the Simmons deal. I've been hitting all my KPIs." "It's not about numbers," Brent interrupted. "It's about culture. Synergy. You're not really one of us, you know." He was let go on the spot. No warning. No formal write-up. Just a thin severance package and a security escort to the elevator like he was a threat. The walk of shame. Elijah sat silently on the bus ride home. Suit wrinkled. Resume in his hand like a tattered dream. His phone buzzed. His mom, Dana Reed. "Hey baby, how was work?" He paused, then choked out the truth. There was a long silence on the other end. Then, Dana said, calmly, "Come home. We need to talk." When Elijah walked through the door, his mother didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. She simply sat across from him, opened her laptop, and began typing. "Mom, what are you doing?" She looked up with eyes cold as steel. "I've been considering expanding my portfolio. You just helped me decide where to invest next." Because what Brent Lawson didn't know was that Dana Reed wasn't just Elijah's mother. She was the CEO of DR Enterprises, a quietly dominant private equity firm known for flipping businesses from the shadows. And she had just started eyeing Halston & McCade. Dana moved quickly. Within 48 hours, her firm had acquired a controlling interest in two of Halston & McCade's key suppliers. Another silent partner who owed Dana a favor pulled out their investment, triggering a stock drop. Employees whispered of instability. Brent, still smug in his ignorance, chalked it up to market fluctuation. By Wednesday, Dana's legal team had begun negotiations to acquire Halston & McCade outright. On Friday morning, exactly 1 week after Elijah had been fired, Dana arrived at the office. Not in a suit. In a crimson power dress, flanked by 2 lawyers, and holding the finalized acquisition papers. She didn't ask for a tour. She walked straight to the executive floor. Brent was in a meeting, laughing over lattes with the same senior staff who once chuckled at Elijah's street music playing softly at his cubicle. A knock on the conference room door froze the room. "Mr. Lawson," said a receptionist, peeking in. "Someone's here to see you." Brent stood, puzzled, and opened the door. His face drained of color. "Dana Reed," she said, extending her hand like a queen claiming her throne. "I'm the new owner." Elijah never saw Brent's face when he was told to vacate his office immediately. But he did receive a call from HR asking if he'd be open to returning, as head of community outreach. Elijah declined, politely. Instead, he accepted a role in his mother's company, leading a new initiative to create internship pipelines for underrepresented students in corporate America. His firing became the fuel for a new vision. As for Dana, she didn't stop with Halston & McCade. She began auditing every company she invested in, scouring their diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. Quietly, thoroughly, ruthlessly. And yet, justice didn't erase the sting. Because behind every "you don't fit in," there are countless voices unheard, careers crushed, potential stifled. And while Dana bought one company, what about the thousands still run by Brents? Sometimes, the tables don't turn on their own. Sometimes, you have to build the table yourself, and bring a chair for every soul who's been shut out. Because when they say you don't fit in, maybe it's because they're afraid of what happens when you finally do. But just as Elijah begins to rebuild, a secret from Brent's past threatens to unravel everything Dana's created. Elijah Reed walked through the gleaming glass doors of DR Enterprises 2 weeks after Halston and McCade had been bought out. A soft breeze drifted through the atrium, where the scent of fresh flowers met polished marble. It was nothing like the cold gray cubicles Brent had once ruled over. Here, Elijah wasn't just welcomed, he was wanted. "Morning, Mr. Reed," the receptionist greeted. He still flinched a little at the title. He had a new role now, Director of Community Access and Inclusion. Not a handout from his mother. This was his vision, shaped by every meeting he'd been excluded from, every lunch he'd eaten alone. His mission: open corporate doors for the kids who never saw themselves on the other side of the glass. But even as Elijah moved forward, something lingered in the shadows. A question he hadn't asked. A door no one dared open. Why was Brent so quick to fire him? What else was he hiding? It started with an anonymous email. Subject line: "Look deeper. Brent buried more than your future." Attached, 3 blurry PDFs, expense reports, memos, and 1 internal complaint, marked confidential. The file was from a former employee named Janelle Cooper, black, marketing assistant, hired 6 months before Elijah, fired just 8 weeks into the job. Unprofessional, aggressive, difficult to manage. The same coded language, the same pattern. But unlike Elijah, Janelle had filed a formal complaint with HR, accusing Brent of targeted harassment, racial bias, and workplace retaliation. Elijah's chest tightened as he read her testimony. "He called me too urban in front of others, said I should smile more, and stop bringing the room down. When I asked to speak privately about how I was being treated, he said maybe this job wasn't for someone like me." A week later, I was gone. And then, her name vanished from all internal directories. Her email shut down. Her personnel file locked under legal privilege. No one had ever heard from her again. Elijah couldn't let it go. He pulled up archived Slack messages from his time at Halston and McCade. The team chat threads. Jokes Brent laughed at. Comments he let slide. Buried in one thread, a message stood out. Brent underscore: "We need someone who can vibe with clients. No more of these DI hires. It's messing with the energy." That message had been deleted by admin the next day. But screenshots? Screenshots were forever. Elijah took them straight to Dana. "I think we only saw the surface," he said quietly. "There's a pattern here. I wasn't the first, and I might not be the last." Dana's face went still. This wasn't just about firing her son anymore. It was about every voice silenced by Brent's bias. Over the next week, Dana's legal team pulled every record. They discovered 6 firings under Brent's leadership, all black employees. 3 within their first 90 days, all marked as poor cultural fit. No formal investigations. No HR follow-up. Just erased. Elijah tracked down Janelle through LinkedIn. She didn't reply to messages at first, but eventually she agreed to meet at a quiet cafe outside the city. She looked older than her 29 years. Eyes tired, voice careful. "You don't know what it cost me," she said. "After I filed that complaint, I couldn't get another job for over a year. Brent told my next potential employer I had anger issues. I had to move. Start over." Tears welled in her eyes. "But I knew I wasn't crazy. Thank you for not letting it die. Elijah swallowed hard. We're not done yet. He handed her a printed letter, an official apology, and a job offer from DR Enterprises. Back at DR's headquarters, Elijah reviewed more old case files. He was piecing together a report that would eventually be sent to the State Labor Board, and possibly the media. It was time to expose Halston and McCade's ugly past. One file caught his eye. A line manager who had abruptly quit just 2 years earlier. Her name was Monica Brent. Same last name. Elijah's brow furrowed. A sister? A cousin? The exit interview, attached in a sealed note, read, "I can no longer work in an environment where ethics are compromised. Brent is manipulating hiring processes, covering his own biases with bogus reports. I've tried to report it. No one listens." Dana entered the room just as Elijah finished reading. "I know that name," she said, voice low. "Monica Brent. She was the original founder's niece. The only one who ever questioned Brent's rise to power." She walked over, placed a hand on Elijah's shoulder. He silenced her too. That night, Elijah sat in his office alone. The city lights flickered beyond the window. He stared at a whiteboard full of timelines, names, and connections. He picked up a red marker, drew a line between Monica Brent and a sealed folder labeled 2018 harassment lawsuit, settled quietly. As he reached for the file, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or you'll end up like her." Attached, a photo. It was taken that night, of Elijah sitting in his office from outside the building window. His blood ran cold. Justice had awakened something deeper, something dangerous. Elijah Reed sat frozen in his chair. The photo on his phone still glared back at him, a grainy, zoomed-in shot of himself, taken from outside his office just moments ago. The timestamp proved it wasn't old. This wasn't just intimidation. It was surveillance. His breathing quickened. He rose and pulled the blinds shut, every instinct screaming that something wasn't right. Someone was watching, and they were close. He immediately called building security. "Check the perimeter cameras. Someone's following me." But 20 minutes later, the head of security returned, pale and unsettled. "There's no footage of anyone outside your window tonight. The camera facing your wing was disabled. Deliberately." The next morning, Elijah sat across from his mother in her office, visibly shaken. Dana scanned the message on his phone, her jaw tightening with each word. "They're trying to scare us," Elijah said. "We're getting too close." Dana leaned back slowly, her eyes sharpening like a blade. "Then they're scared. Good." But behind the defiance, a flicker of worry passed over her features. "We need to know who sent this," she said, "and why they're so desperate to bury what we found." She called in Marcus Leak, her private investigator, former FBI, known for getting answers quietly. Within an hour, he began tracing the IP address from the message. What he found made Dana's heart skip a beat. "It was routed through a server in Chicago," Marcus explained. "But the trail goes back to a proxy company. One Brent Lawson once listed as a consultant on a 2018 corporate audit. Looks like he kept some dirty connections." Dana's voice was low and cold. "I want everything. Bank accounts, contacts, who he talks to, who's protecting him." Marcus nodded. "You'll have it." Meanwhile, Elijah continued reviewing internal documents from Halston and McCade's past leadership. One name came up over and over, buried in board meeting minutes and HR memos. Peter Ashford, a former board member, quietly resigned 3 years ago. But what caught Elijah's attention was the date of Ashford's departure. It lined up exactly with the settled harassment lawsuit from 2018, the one Monica Brent had flagged before she disappeared from the company. Digging deeper, Elijah uncovered something even more disturbing. Ashford was never fired. He was paid to walk away, with a $3 million settlement, under a confidentiality clause so tight it read like a gag order. And the signature on that document. Dana Reed's predecessor at DR Enterprises. the same firm she now ran. That night, Elijah sat in the DR records vault, piecing together a timeline with sticky notes and red string. A whisper of doubt started to creep in. What if the corruption Brent embodied didn't start with him? What if it infected everything, even DR Enterprises? He ran his hands over one of the older file cabinets. Then something strange happened. One drawer, marked D15, was locked. But when he jiggled the handle, it clicked open on the third try. Inside, a single file folder, labeled simply, Monica Brent, sealed report. Elijah opened it, and his blood ran cold. Inside were photos, handwritten statements, screenshots of emails between Monica and Peter Ashford, desperate pleas to the board, to HR, to anyone who would listen. And at the bottom, a note in Monica's handwriting. If anything happens to me, start with Peter. Brent is just the cover. Elijah rushed to his mother's office. She wasn't there. A secretary informed him she'd left early for a dinner meeting with a new investor interested in DR's education initiative. His stomach sank. Did she go alone? Yes, I believe so. He tried her cell, straight to voicemail. Then a call came through from Marcus, the private investigator. Elijah, his voice urgent. I just ran a deeper check on Ashford's proxy companies. One of them made a reservation tonight at Luchain for 2, under Dana's name, but she didn't make it. Elijah stood frozen. What are you saying? I think she's walking into a trap. Elijah raced through traffic, blowing red lights and dodging horns. The restaurant wasn't far, but every second felt like a lifetime. His mother didn't scare easily, but she trusted people. And right now, trust could get her killed. He pulled up in front of the restaurant, parked crooked, ignored the valet. Inside, the maitre d' greeted him calmly. You're here for Ms. Reed's party? Elijah blinked. She's here. The man shook his head. Oh no, she called and canceled. About 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, his phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Too late, Elijah. We warned you. Attached was a photo. Dana's car, parked outside her gated home. Driver's side door wide open. Keys still in the ignition. And Dana, nowhere to be found. Elijah Reed stood frozen, his eyes glued to the photo on his phone. Dana's car, driver's door open, keys in the ignition. No sign of her. Time slowed as the world tilted beneath him. His mother, the unshakable, untouchable Dana Reed, was missing, and whoever took her wanted him to feel it. He sped to her gated estate, tearing down the long driveway as his headlights pierced the dusk. Her car was exactly where the photo showed. The door still hung open. Her purse was in the front seat. Her phone, face down, cracked. But of Dana, nothing. Only silence. Elijah stepped out of his car, heart pounding. He scanned the area with wild eyes. The air was heavy, too still. He called out her name. Mom. No answer. He found scuff marks near the garage door. One of her heels lay in the gravel. A trail of drag marks led toward the trees behind the estate, but stopped abruptly. Then, something else. A white envelope, taped to the back of her Range Rover. Inside was a printed note. You opened a door you were never meant to. This is your chance to close it. Walk away, Elijah. Or next time, it won't be a warning. No signature. No fingerprints. Elijah's hands trembled. This wasn't just about corporate corruption anymore. It was personal. Back at DR Enterprises, Elijah pulled together a closed-door emergency meeting with Marcus the investigator and Trina Caldwell, Dana's most trusted VP. He slammed the envelope on the table. She's gone. And they left this like it's some kind of game. Trina's face paled. Who would do this? Elijah, Marcus said cautiously, we're not dealing with just disgruntled executives. These people operate in shadows. Offshore accounts, shell companies, Blackmail. This goes deeper than Brent Lawson. But he's the one who started all this, Elijah snapped. Marcus leaned forward. No, Brent was just the bait. There's someone else. Someone who's been controlling the boardroom and pulling strings long before you or Dana ever walked in. Elijah stared at the board behind Marcus, covered in sticky notes and connections. And then, he saw it. A name. One he'd missed before. Gerald Whitlow. Former founding partner of Halston and McCabe. Long retired. Known in financial circles as a reclusive billionaire. The only signature besides Dana's on the 2018 sealed lawsuit documents. Elijah demanded every file DR had ever processed under Whitlow's name. There wasn't much, just 2 scanned contracts and 1 confidential memorandum with most of the text blacked out. But one file had slipped through. An old boardroom transcript, dated 5 years earlier, where Whitlow reportedly opposed Dana's entry into DR's leadership. "She's not one of us," Whitlow had said. "She's too clean. We don't need a crusader, we need a gatekeeper." The vote passed anyway. Dana had outmaneuvered him. And now, he was back to reclaim what he lost. Marcus hacked into Dana's smart home security system. Thankfully, her personal cameras had an encrypted backup to a separate cloud. The footage was mostly dark. Until 7:46 p.m. A black SUV pulled into the driveway. Dana stepped out of her home to greet someone. She wasn't afraid. She knew them. She even smiled. The figure stepped out of the SUV, but the angle only caught part of his face. Graying hair. Navy coat. Sharp features. Marcus zoomed in and enhanced. Elijah gasped. It wasn't Brent. It was Gerald Whitlow. And behind him, Brent Lawson, head down, avoiding the camera. They were working together. Later that night, Elijah sat in his mother's study, her scent still clinging to the air. He opened the locked drawer she always kept a spare key for in her favorite book, The Art of War. Inside was a flash drive. When he plugged it in, he found video files, voice memos, and one final letter, addressed to him. He played the voice note. "Elijah, if you're hearing this, I knew they'd come. I tried to protect you from this world. But now you have to decide. Do you expose the truth, even if it means sacrificing everything I built? Or do you walk away and let it stay buried?" Tears welled in Elijah's eyes. But just as he clicked on the final video file, the screen glitched. Then a black screen. Then a live feed. It was Dana, bound to a chair, eyes swollen, bruised, but alive. A man's voice came through the speaker, cold and chilling. "You wanted justice, Elijah? Then come find it. Alone." The feed cut, and Elijah knew he wasn't just fighting for justice anymore. He was fighting for his mother's life. Elijah Reed didn't sleep. He couldn't. Not after watching his mother tied to a chair, bloodied and silent, her eyes filled with both pain and unspoken warning. The live feed had ended abruptly, but one frame, paused and enhanced by Marcus, revealed the location's clue. An old metal plaque in the background. Faded. Rusted. Whitlow Ironworks, ST 1968. Elijah's fists clenched. He knew the place. An abandoned factory 2 hours outside Columbus. Shut down decades ago. Supposedly sold off during Whitlow's retirement. It wasn't just an old factory. It was a graveyard of Whitlow's past sins, and it might be Dana's last stop if Elijah didn't act fast. "I'm coming with you," Marcus said, tossing Elijah a vest and flashlight. "No," Elijah replied, voice firm. "They said alone. If I bring you, they'll kill her before I even walk in." "Elijah." I said no. "But track my phone. If I don't text you in 90 minutes, come in." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "You're your mother's son." Elijah strapped the vest under his hoodie, tucked his flashlight and a small recording device into his jacket. He didn't have weapons. He didn't have experience. But what he did have: purpose. And nothing was going to stop him from bringing his mother home. The factory loomed like a corpse in the dark. Rusting beams, broken windows, the kind of place no one came back from. Elijah stepped through the side entrance, the metal door creaking like a warning bell. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of old oil and rotting iron. A voice echoed from the shadows. "Well, the prodigal son arrives." Brent Lawson emerged from the darkness, still smug, but no longer polished. He looked desperate, sweating, wired. "We told you not to dig," Brent said, "but you kept going. Now look where it got you." "Where is she?" Elijah growled. Brent smirked. "You'll see. But first, Mr. Whitlow wants a word." From the catwalk above, Gerald Whitlow descended the stairs like a king in a tomb. He was older now, but no less calculating. "Elijah," he said calmly. "Sit." Elijah didn't move. Whitlow chuckled. "Fine. Stand then. But hear this, your mother had a choice. She could have stayed quiet, played the game, but she chose war. She forced our hand. She chose integrity," Elijah snapped. "Something you clearly never had." Whitlow's eyes darkened. "You think this is about racism? About your little HR story? No, boy. This is about power. Your mother threatened an empire built over generations. And you're just the spark she lit." Whitlow gestured to a monitor. It flickered on. Dana sat tied in the center of a room. A single bulb hung overhead. "Elijah," she croaked weakly. "Don't listen to him, he's trying to twist." The screen cut to black. Then Whitlow turned to Elijah. "I knew your mother before she was Dana Reed. Back then, she went by Danielle Rivers, my protege, my brightest apprentice, and yes, my secret, until she betrayed me." Elijah's heart skipped. "You're lying." Whitlow tossed a file on the floor. Inside were photos. Young Dana, much younger, standing beside a smiling Whitlow in a boardroom. Letters, handwritten notes, a contract. One line stood out. "Danielle Rivers agrees to non-disclosure of all board activity, past and present." "No," Elijah whispered. "She would have told me." Whitlow leaned in. "She built DR Enterprises with my money, my connections. Everything you stand on was built by me. You're fighting to destroy a legacy she helped protect. How's that for irony?" Brent handed Elijah a pen and a document. "Sign this," Whitlow said. "It's a confidentiality agreement. You disappear. Your mother comes home. DR stays intact. No press, no lawsuits, no war." Elijah stared at the paper. His hands shook. "If I don't," Whitlow smiled, "then we leak the truth. The fake name, the contract, her involvement, everything. Her credibility dies. DR collapses. And we make sure you disappear, just like Monica Brent did." Elijah looked at the contract. His mother's entire legacy, her truth, his future, all of it in his trembling hands. But then, his phone buzzed. A single ping from Marcus. Attached, a photo of Dana, escaping, duct tape around her wrists torn, blood on her cheek, barefoot, running through the factory hallways. She wasn't waiting to be rescued. She was saving herself. Elijah shoved the paper back into Brent's chest. "You underestimated the wrong family." Suddenly, gunfire. 2 shots echoed through the factory. Elijah ducked behind a beam. Brent screamed. "She's loose. Find her." Chaos erupted. Shadows darted. Flashlights swung wildly. Elijah sprinted down the hallway, yelling, "Emo, Emo." Then, a scream. Not just any scream. His mother's. He turned the corner and froze. Dana stood against a wall, weak, eyes wide. Behind her, Gerald Whitlow, holding her by the throat with one hand, and a gun in the other. "Move again," Whitlow hissed, "and your son gets to watch you die." Elijah raised his hands, eyes full of tears. "Please, I'm here. Take me. Just don't hurt her." Whitlow snarled, "You don't get to decide anymore." Gunshot. The gunshot echoed like thunder through the cold, hollow factory. For a split second, everything stopped. Elijah's heart slammed against his chest. He couldn't tell who had been hit, his mother, Gerald Whitlow, or someone else. Then, a grunt. Whitlow's body swayed. He dropped to his knees. The gun clattered to the floor, skidding across the cement like a warning gone silent. Blood bloomed from his shoulder. Behind him, Dana Reed stood with a rusted metal rod in her trembling hands, her lip bloodied, her eyes wild, but her spine unbroken. She'd struck him from behind. She didn't run this time. She fought. Elijah rushed forward, catching his mother just as she stumbled into his arms. "I told you not to come alone," she whispered hoarsely. "And you still tried to escape without me," he said, half laughing through his tears. They held each other as sirens wailed in the distance. Marcus had called backup the moment Elijah's phone disconnected. The factory lights flickered back on as SWAT units poured in through broken entryways. Brent was arrested on the spot, found hiding in a maintenance closet, soaked in sweat and shame. Whitlow, conscious but defeated, was handcuffed and loaded into an ambulance. He didn't say a word. His empire had crumbled in silence. But the true reckoning had only just begun. Within days, the story exploded. Headlines screamed. Corporate tycoon exposed for decades of abuse and cover UPS. Black CEO and son uncover systemic discrimination, survive kidnapping. Whistleblower files spark federal investigation into Halston and McCabe. Dana and Elijah stood at the center of it all, not just as survivors, but as symbols of something much deeper: truth. Elijah released a full investigative report, detailing the corruption, the racism, the lawsuits, the silent firings. But he didn't stop there. With Dana's support, he launched the Reed Initiative, a non-profit watchdog organization dedicated to exposing corporate injustice and protecting whistleblowers across America. The first person they hired, Janelle Cooper, and the second, Monica Brent. She'd been in hiding, living under another name. But seeing Elijah and Dana survive and rise again gave her the courage to step into the light and testify. Months later, Elijah walked into DR Enterprises, now renamed Reed Legacy Group. The air felt lighter, honest. Interns from underfunded neighborhoods now filled the hallways. Staff diversity had tripled. Glass offices no longer symbolized barriers. They represented transparency. Dana sat at the head of the boardroom table. She looked up and smiled at her son. "You ready for this?" Elijah took a breath. "I was born for it." Later that night, Elijah stood outside the old Halston building, now shuttered and silent. He remembered walking out of those doors months ago, humiliated, fired, told he didn't fit in. He smiled, because now he owned that story. He pulled out his phone and began recording a message, his final words for the people who had followed the journey from the beginning. "They said I didn't fit in, but the truth is, I wasn't made to fit into broken systems. I was made to change them. My mother taught me something I'll never forget. Fitting in is overrated. Standing up, that's legacy. If someone tells you to stay quiet, speak louder. If they try to erase your story, write it in ink. Because justice isn't a moment, it's a mission. And sometimes, to find your place in the world, you have to build it yourself." He looked at the camera, strong, healed, and whole. "This is Elijah Reed, and we're just getting started." Life lesson. In honor of every voice that was told to stay silent, let this story be your reminder. You belong.